Morning, it's Bob Mason from FX Empire and welcome to the daily crypto tech review of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin and Ripple's XRP. We'll be looking at the MACDs, the moving averages and the day's support, resistance and pivot levels. It is Saturday the 28th of November. Jumping straight into Bitcoin against the US dollar, going to need to see Bitcoin avoid a fallback through the pivot at 17.068 to take a run at the first major resistance level sitting at 17.634. Going to need to see support from the broader market for Bitcoin to break back through to 17,500 levels, however. So barring an extended rally on the day, expect that first major resistance level to cap any upside. In the event of a breakout, could see Bitcoin test resistance at 18,000 before any pullback. Second major resistance level sits at 18,098. Fallback through the pivot will bring the first major support level sitting at 16,604 into play. Barring an extended sell-off on the day, Bitcoin should stay well clear of sub 16,000 levels. Second major support level sitting at 16,038 should limit the downside. Looking at the MACD's got a slight narrowing of the bullish histogram, but nothing suggestive of a bearish morning ahead, so keep an eye on that. On the EMAs, we are seeing 50 pull back marginally from the 100 and the 200, however suggesting some downside through the morning. So key through the early part of the day, avoid a fallback through the pivot, break back through to 17,500 levels to bring resistance levels into play. Failure to do that and support levels are in play. Moving across to Ethereum against the US dollar, also bearish start to the morning here. Going to need to see Ethereum avoid a fallback through the pivot at 514.66 to take a run at the first major resistance level sitting at 535.82. Going to need to see support from the broader market for Ethereum to break back through to 530 levels. So barring an extended crypto rally on the day, expect that first major resistance level to cap any upside. Event of a breakout, could see Ethereum test resistance at 550 before any pullback. Second major resistance level sits at 552.56. A fallback through the pivot would bring the first major support level sitting at 497.92 and the 23.6% fib at 495 into play. Barring an extended sell-off on the day, Ethereum should stay clear of the second major support level sitting at 476.76. Looking at the MACD, we've got a slight widening of the bullish histogram, supportive of some upside through the morning. On the EMA, we are seeing the 50 flatten on the 100 and the 200, but we are seeing the 100 narrow on the 200, suggestive of some downside ahead. So key through the early part of the day, avoid a fall through the pivot and move back through to 530 levels to bring resistance levels into play. Failure to do that, and you got sub 500 and support levels in play. Moving across to Litecoin against the US dollar, also bearish. Going to see Litecoin move through the pivot at 69.35 to bring the 38.2% fib at 71 and the first major resistance level at 73.43 into play. Going to need to see support from the broader market for Litecoin to break out from that 38.2% fib. So barring extended rally on the day, expect that first major resistance level at 73.43 to cap any upside. If you learn to break out, got the second major resistance level at 77.65 and resistance at 80 to pin Litecoin back. Failure to move through the pivot would bring the first major support level sitting at 65.13 into play. Barring an extended sell-off on the day, Litecoin should stay clear of sub 60. Second major support level sitting at 61.05 should limit the downside. Looking at the MACD, slight narrowing of the bullish histogram, but nothing suggestive of a bearish morning ahead. Looking at the EMAs, however, both the 100 and the 50 are pulling back from the 200, suggestive of further downside. So key through the early part of the day would be to move back through the pivot and the 38.2% fib. Failure to do that and you got support levels in play. Finally, looking at Ripple's XRP against the US dollar, going to need to see Ripple's XRP avoid the pivot at 0.5485 to take a run at the first major resistance level, saying at 0.6014. Support from the broader market is going to be needed for Ripple's XRP to break back through to 0.6 levels. So barring extended crypto rally through the day, expect that first major resistance level to cap any upside. In the event of a breakout, got the 23.6% fib at 0.6274 and the second major resistance level at 0.641 would likely come into play. A fall through the pivot would bring the 38.2% fib at 52.85 and the first major support level sitting at 0.5090 into play. Barring an extended sell-off on the day, Ripple's XRP should steer well clear of sub 0.4 levels. The second major support level sitting at 0.4560 should limit the downside. Looking at the MACDs, we've got a slight narrowing of the bullish histogram, supporting this early morning pullback. On the EMAs, we are seeing the 50 pinch on the 100 and narrow on the 200, suggestive of some downside ahead. So key through the early part of the day would be to avoid a fall through the pivot and the 38.2% fib. A move back through to 0.6 levels and through that first major resistance level should bring the 23.6% fib and 0.64 levels into play.